Welcome to Big Breaking News of America. Genesis Episode 30. Rabbinic and Mystical Interpretations of the Joseph Narrative, Genesis 37:50. The Joseph Narrative and Conclusion, Genesis 37:50, form the climactic section of the book of Genesis, delivering a unified story that transitions from the patriarchal narratives, Genesis 12:36, to Joseph's transformative journey, which ensures his family's survival and establishes Israel's presence in Egypt, preparing for the Exodus narrative, Exodus 1:15. Framed by the Toledo generations of Jacob, Genesis 37:2, the narrative weaves themes of divine providence, forgiveness, and covenantal continuity, resolving Genesis promises, Genesis 12:1-3, and setting the stage for the Torah's redemptive arc. Rabbinic and mystical interpretations, developed through Midrash, for example, Bereshit Rabbah, Talmud, Zohar, and commentaries by figures like Rashi and Ramban, enrich the narrative's significance, uncovering theological depths, ethical imperatives, and spiritual insights. These traditions, rooted in the oral Torah and mystical Kabbalah, address the needs of Jewish communities from the Second Temple period through the diaspora, offering hope, identity, and guidance. This exploration examines the interpretive frameworks of Midrash and Talmud, the mystical lens of the Zohar and Kabbalah, key commentators, Rashi, Ramban, their theological and ethical contributions, Torah connections, influences on Jewish liturgy and practice, interfaith resonances, and contemporary relevance, demonstrating how these interpretations unify Genesis 37:50 as a cornerstone of Jewish thought and a bridge to Torah redemption. 1. Rabbinic interpretations, Midrash and Talmud. Rabbinic interpretations, primarily through Midrash, exegetical narratives, and Talmud, legal and ethical discussions, approach the Joseph narrative as a theological and ethical text, emphasizing divine providence, teshuvah, repentance, and communal identity. These traditions, compiled between the 2nd century CE, Bereshit Rabbah, and 5th–6th centuries CE, Babylonian Talmud, reflect the concerns of Jewish communities under Roman and Babylonian rule, seeking to preserve covenantal hope amidst exile. Midrash, Bereshit Rabbah. Bereshit Rabbah, a key midrash on Genesis, c. 4th–5th century CE, views the Joseph narrative as a paradigm of divine providence and redemption, linking it to Israel's exilic experience and future restoration. Joseph's dreams, Genesis 37:5-11. Bereshit Rabbah 84 hours 10 minutes interprets Joseph's dreams of sheaves and stars as prophetic, ordained by God to ensure Israel's survival. The dream's fulfillment, as his brothers bow, Genesis 42:6, demonstrates God's plan, with the Midrash stating, "The Holy One blessed Joseph's visions to preserve life," Bereshit Rabbah 89:2. This aligns with Genesis 50 hours 20 minutes, framing Joseph as a covenantal preserver. Judah's transformation, Genesis 38:44–1834. The Midrash praises Judah's teshuvah, particularly his plea for Benjamin, Genesis 44:1834, as meriting kingship, Genesis 49:8-12. Bereshit Rabbah 93:8 notes, Judah's words softened Joseph's heart, linking his self-sacrifice to Torah repentance, Leviticus 26:40–42. The Tamar subplot, Genesis 38, is seen as divine, ensuring Judah's line, Bereshit Rabbah 85 hours 10 minutes. Reconciliation, Genesis 45:4-15. The brothers' remorse, Genesis 42:21-22, and Joseph's forgiveness are models of teshuvah and chaste, Bereshit Rabbah 92:5. The Midrash connects Genesis 45:7 to the Exodus, stating, Joseph's salvation prefigures Israel's redemption, Bereshit Rabbah 90:3. Jacob's blessings, Genesis 49. Bereshit Rabbah 98:2 views the tribal blessings as prophetic, with Judah's scepter, Genesis 49 hours 10 minutes, foreshadowing David and the Messiah. The Midrash interprets Joseph's prominence, Genesis 49:22-26, as covenantal blessing, uniting the tribes for Sinai, Exodus 19:6. Theological significance, the Midrash emphasizes providence, Genesis 50 hours 20 minutes, framing Joseph's trials as God's plan to save Israel and Egypt, fulfilling the universal blessing, Genesis 12:3. It underscores teshuvah, with Judah and the brothers modeling repentance, and communal identity, with Genesis 49 shaping Israel's mission. Talmud, ethical and legal insights. The Babylonian Talmud, c. 5th–6th century CE, uses the Joseph narrative to derive ethical and halakhic, legal, principles, addressing communal life and moral conduct. Joseph's integrity, Genesis 39:7-12. Sota 36b lauds Joseph's resistance to Potiphar's wife, stating, he sanctified God's name in private, making him a model of Kiddush Hashem, sanctifying God. This shapes halakhic ethics on sexual morality, influencing Torah laws, Leviticus 18. Repentance and forgiveness, Genesis 42:21-22, 45:4-15. Yoma 86b cites the brothers' remorse and Joseph's forgiveness as paradigms of teshuvah, informing Yom Kippur liturgy. The Talmud notes, their guilt brought reconciliation, linking to Leviticus 16. Tribal unity, Genesis 49. Sanhedrin 92 interprets Jacob's blessings as covenantal hope, with Judah's leadership, Genesis 49:8-12, ensuring Israel's continuity. This shapes Haftarah readings, connecting to Davidic promises, 2 Samuel 7. Joseph's burial, Genesis 50:24-25. Sota 13 sees Joseph's bones as a sign of redemption, fulfilled in Joshua 2400 hours 32, reinforcing the land promise, Exodus 3:8. Theological significance, the Talmud emphasizes ethical responsibility, with Joseph's integrity and forgiveness modeling Torah virtues, Deuteronomy 6:5. It frames the narrative as exilic hope, with Genesis 50:24-25 assuring restoration, Deuteronomy 31:5. Influence on Jewish practice. Midrash and Talmud shape Parshiyo readings, Vayishev, Miketz, Vayigash, Vayichi, with Genesis 45:4-15 and 49 read during Selishot and Shabbat, emphasizing teshuvah and unity. Bereshit Rabbah's providence informs Tefillah, while Sota 36b's ethics guide Musar study. The narrative's themes influence Yom Kippur, Teshuvah, Pesach, redemption, and Haftarah selections, linking Genesis to Torah spirituality. Theological and ethical contributions. Rabbinic interpretations highlight God's hidden plan, Genesis 50 hours 20 minutes, offering hope to exilic communities, akin to 2nd Isaiah, Isaiah 41:11. They emphasize teshuvah and chaste, with Judah's plea and Joseph's forgiveness shaping Torah ethics, Leviticus 19:18. The tribal focus, Genesis 49, reinforces Jewish identity, prefiguring Sinai's covenant, Exodus 19:6. Two mystical interpretations, Zohar and Kabbalah. Mystical interpretations, primarily through the Zohar, c. 13th century CE, and Kabbalistic traditions, approach the Joseph narrative as a cosmic allegory, mapping its events and characters onto the Sphirot, divine attributes, and the soul's journey. These interpretations, developed by figures like Moses de Leon and later Kabbalists, address medieval Jewish communities facing persecution, offering spiritual depth and redemptive hope. Zohar, cosmic and spiritual dimensions. The Zohar, the foundational text of Kabbalah, interprets Genesis 37:50 as a drama of divine unity, with characters embodying Sphirot and their interactions restoring cosmic balance. Joseph as Yesod, Foundation Zohar, Vaishev 182a, identifies Joseph as Yesod, the Sphra channeling divine blessing to the world. His trials, betrayal, Genesis 37:18-28, temptation, Genesis 39:7-12, and imprisonment, Genesis 39 hours 20 minutes, purify his soul, enabling him to unite Tiferet, harmony, Jacob, and Shekinah, divine presence, Israel. His rise, Genesis 41:40-46, restores cosmic flow, as Joseph's righteousness sustained life, Zohar, Miketz 193b, linking to Genesis 45:7. Judah as Makhut, sovereignty Zohar, Vaichi 235b, sees Judah as Makhut, the Sphra of earthly kingship. His teshuvah, Genesis 38 hours 26 minutes, 44:18-34, elevates him, with his plea uniting the tribes under divine rule. The Zohar ties Genesis 49:8-12 to messianic redemption, stating, Judah's scepter binds Shekinah to Israel. Tamar and Shekinah, Zohar, Vaishev 182a, interprets Tamar, Genesis 38, as a manifestation of Shekinah, ensuring Judah's line through divine agency. Her righteousness, Genesis 38 hours 26 minutes, restores covenantal purity, prefiguring Ruth, Ruth 4:18-22. Reconciliation and cosmic unity, Genesis 45:4-15. The Zohar views the brothers' reunion as aligning Sphirot, with Joseph, Yesod, and Judah, Makhut, harmonizing divine attributes. Zohar, Vayagash 206a, states, their tears united heaven and earth linking to Sinai's covenant, Exodus 19:6. Jacob's blessings, Genesis 49. Zohar, Vaichi 235b, sees the tribal blessings as allocating Sphirot to each tribe, with Judah's kingship, Makhut, and Joseph's prominence, Yesod, unifying Israel. This foreshadows the Messiah, aligning with Midrashic hopes, Bereshit Rabbah 98:2. Joseph's bones, Genesis 50:24-25. Zohar, Vaichi 245a, interprets Joseph's burial request as Shekinah as exile, redeemed in Joshua 2400 hours 32, symbolizing Israel's return, Deuteronomy 31:5. Kabbalistic themes. Exile and redemption. The Zohar frames Joseph's exile, Genesis 37 hours 28 minutes, as a metaphor for Shekinah's displacement, with his rise, Genesis 41:40-46, prefiguring Israel's redemption. This resonates with medieval Jews facing crusades and expulsions, offering spiritual hope. Tikkun, repair Joseph's forgiveness, Genesis 45:4-15, and Judah's Teshuvah, Genesis 44:18-34, are acts of Tikkun, repairing cosmic and human fractures, aligning with Kabbalistic goals of restoring divine unity. Mystical ethics. The Zohar emphasizes Joseph's integrity, Genesis 39:9, as aligning the soul with Keter, divine will, shaping Kabbalistic Musar on purity and compassion. Influence on Jewish practice. The Zohar's interpretations influence Sephardic liturgy, with Genesis 45 and 49 read in Kabbalat Shabbat, emphasizing cosmic unity. Illyrianic Kabbalah incorporates Joseph as Yesod into Tikkun Olam rituals, shaping Chassidic practices, for example, Shabbat's Farbrengens. The mystical focus on redemption informs Pesach and Tisha B'Av, linking Genesis 50:24-25 to Torah hope, Exodus 3:8. Theological and spiritual contributions. The Zohar transforms the narrative into a cosmic allegory, with Joseph and Judah restoring divine order, prefiguring Sinai's covenant, Exodus 19:6. It offers exilic hope, framing Genesis 37:50 as a spiritual journey from fragmentation to unity, aligning with prophetic visions, Ezekiel 37. The emphasis on Tikkun and ethics shapes Jewish spirituality, encouraging personal and communal redemption. Three key commentators, Rashi and Ramban. Medieval commentators like Rashi, 1040-1105 CE, and Ramban, Nachmanides, 1194-1270 CE, blend rabbinic and mystical insights, offering accessible yet profound interpretations of the Joseph narrative, addressing Jewish communities in Christian Europe. Rashi, clarity and midrashic synthesis. Rashi, a French rabbi, combines peshat, literal meaning, and midrash to clarify the narrative's text and theology, making it accessible to lay readers. Joseph's dreams, Genesis 37:5-11. Rashi cites Bereshit Rabbah 84 hours 10 minutes, noting the dream's divine origin, fulfilled in Genesis 42:6. He explains Joseph's tactlessness as youthful zeal, tempered by trials, Genesis 39:41. Judah and Tamar, Genesis 38. Rashi sees Tamar's actions as covenantal, with Genesis 38 hours 26 minutes reflecting Judah's Teshuvah, ensuring Perez's line, Ruth 4:18-22. He links this to Davidic kingship, Genesis 49:8-12. Reconciliation, Genesis 45:4-15. Rashi emphasizes Joseph's chaste, noting, he spoke to their hearts, Genesis 45:8, aligning with Midrash, Bereshit Rabbah 92:5. He ties Genesis 45:7 to the Exodus, framing Joseph as a redeemer. Jacob's blessings, Genesis 49. Rashi interprets Genesis 49:8-12 as messianic, with Judah's scepter pointing to David and beyond. He sees Joseph's blessings, Genesis 49:22-26, as covenantal favor, linking to Ephraim and Manasseh, Numbers 1:32-34. Providence, Genesis 50:20. Rashi underscores God's plan, stating, evil became good through divine will connecting to Torah redemption, Exodus 3:8. Influence, Rashi's commentary shapes Parshiyo readings, Shevruta study, and Haftarah selections, with Genesis 45:4-15 informing Salishot and Musar ethics. Ramban, theological and mystical depth. Ramban, a Spanish rabbi and Kabbalist, integrates Peshat, Midrash, and mystical insights, emphasizing covenantal and redemptive themes. Joseph's trials, Genesis 37:41. Ramban sees Joseph's enslavement and imprisonment as divine tests, purifying him for leadership, Genesis 41:40-46. He cites Genesis 39:21. The Lord was with Joseph as providence, linking to Genesis 50:20. Judah's plea, Genesis 44:18-34. Ramban views Judah's self-sacrifice as teshuvat, earning kingship, Genesis 49:8-12. He connects Genesis 44:18-34 to Moses' intercession, Exodus 32:11-14, emphasizing communal duty. Tamar's role, Genesis 38. Ramban interprets Tamar's agency as divine, ensuring Judah's line. He sees Genesis 38:26 as covenantal chaste, prefiguring Ruth. Tribal blessings, Genesis 49. Ramban views Genesis 49 as prophetic, with Judah's scepter, Genesis 49:10, and Joseph's prominence, Genesis 49:22-26, unifying Israel for Sinai. He hints at messianic hopes, aligning with Zohar's Makhut. Exile and hope, Genesis 50:24-25. Ramban sees Joseph's bones as a sign of redemption, fulfilled in Joshua 24:32, reflecting Kabbalistic exile redemption cycles. Influence, Ramban's insights shape Sephardic exegesis, Kabbalistic study, and Musar teachings, with Genesis 49 informing Pesach and Messianic liturgy. Theological and ethical contributions. Rashi's clarity makes the narrative's providence and teshuvah accessible, shaping Jewish education and ethics. Ramban's mystical depth links Genesis 37:50 to Torah redemption, offering hope amidst medieval persecution. Both emphasize covenantal continuity, with Genesis 49 and 50:24-25 unifying Israel for its Torah mission, Exodus 19:6. 4 connections to the Torah. Rabbinic and mystical interpretations connect the Joseph narrative to the Torah's broader arc, framing it as a prelude to redemption and covenantal life. Exodus. Midrash, Bereshit Rabban 90:3, and Rashi tie Joseph's role, Genesis 45:7, to the Exodus, Exodus 3:7-10, with his preservation of Israel prefiguring liberation, Exodus 14. The Zohar sees his exile, Genesis 37:28, as Shekinah's displacement, redeemed in Exodus 15. Joseph's bones, Genesis 50:24-25, emphasized in Sota 13a and Ramban, link to Exodus 13:19, symbolizing the land promise, Exodus 3:8. Leviticus. The Talmud, Yoma 86b, connects the brothers Teshuvah, Genesis 42:21-22, to Yom Kippur, Leviticus 16, while Joseph's integrity, Genesis 39:9, Sota 36b, informs holiness laws, Leviticus 19:2. Midrash ties Genesis 45:4-15 to You shall not take vengeance, Leviticus 19:18. Numbers. Bereshit Rabbah 98:2 and Rashi view Jacob's blessings, Genesis 49, as prefiguring Numbers' tribal organization, Numbers 1:4, with Judah's leadership, Genesis 49:8-12, echoed in Numbers 2. The Zohar sees the tribes as Sphirot, unifying Israel for Sinai. Deuteronomy. Joseph's burial request, Genesis 50:24-25, Sota 13a, aligns with Deuteronomy's restoration, Deuteronomy 31:5. Ramban connects Genesis 49 to Deuteronomy's blessings, Deuteronomy 33, framing the narrative as covenantal hope. The universal blessing, Genesis 12:3, fulfilled in Genesis 41:57, Bereshit Rabbah 90:3, informs Deuteronomy's ethic, Deuteronomy 10:19. Theological significance. These connections frame Genesis 37:50 as the Torah's foundation, with providence, Genesis 50:20, prefiguring deliverance, Exodus 14, Teshuvah, Genesis 45:4-15, shaping ethics, Leviticus 19:18, and tribal identity, Genesis 49, preparing for nationhood, Exodus 19:6. The narrative's exilic hope, emphasized by Midrash and Zohar, aligns with Deuteronomy's restoration, unifying the Pentateuch's arc. 5 influences on Jewish practice and identity. Rabbinic and mystical interpretations profoundly shape Jewish liturgy, education, and communal identity, embedding Genesis 37:50 in Jewish life. Liturgy and festivals. Parshio, Vayishev, Miketz, Vayigash, Vayichi, draw on Rashi and Bereshit Rabbah, with Genesis 45:4-15 read in Silai for Teshuvah and Genesis 49 in Shabbat for unity. Haftarah selections, for example, Ezekiel 37 for Vayichi, reflect Midrashic redemption. Yom Kippur incorporates Genesis 42:21-22, Yoma 86b, for repentance, while Pesach cites Genesis 50:24-25, Sota 13a, for redemption, linking to Exodus. Sephardic and Chassidic communities use Zohar's Genesis 45 readings in Kabbalat Shabbat, emphasizing cosmic unity. Education and ethics. Chevruta study relies on Rashi and Ramban, with Genesis 39:9, Sota 36b, shaping Musar on integrity. Bereshit Rabbah's providence, Genesis 50:20, informs Jewish resilience, taught in yeshivas. The Zohar's Tikkun inspires Chassidic teachings, for example, Baal Shem Tov, with Joseph's Yesod guiding spiritual growth in Farbrengens. Communal identity. Midrash's tribal focus, Genesis 49, reinforces Jewish unity, influencing Zionist hopes and synagogue networks, Shabbat, 2025. The Zohar's exile redemption cycle shapes Tisha B'Av, linking Genesis to diaspora identity. Joseph's forgiveness, Genesis 45:4-15, and Judah's Teshuvah, Genesis 44:18-34, model communal chaste, guiding Jewish ethics, Tzedakah. Cultural impact. These interpretations embed Genesis 37:50 in Jewish life, shaping tefillah, halakha, and spirituality. They influence Hebrew literature, for example, Agnons and the crooked shall be made straight, art, Shigal's Joseph, and education, preserving covenantal hope. 6 Interfaith perspectives. Rabbinic and mystical interpretations resonate with Christian and Islamic exegesis, fostering shared theological insights and interfaith dialogue. Christianity. Providence and typology. Midrash's emphasis on Genesis 50:20 aligns with Christian views of divine plan, Romans 8:28, with Joseph prefiguring Christ, Acts 7:9-16. Rashi's providence informs Augustine's sermons, shaping Advent readings. Reconciliation and Teshuvah. The Talmud's focus on Genesis 45:4-15 resonates with Christian forgiveness, Matthew 6:14-15, influencing reconciliation theology, Origen's homilies. Tribal blessings. Bereshit Rabbah 98:2's messianic reading of Genesis 49:8-12 aligns with Christ's Davidic lineage, Matthew 1:16, shaping Lent exegesis. Influence. Rabbinic insights enrich Christian biblical studies, with Genesis 45 and 49 informing sermons and art, Tissot's Joseph's Brothers. Islam. Divine plan and piety. Midrash's providence, Genesis 50:20, parallels Surah Yusuf's divine signs, Quran 12:21-101, with Joseph as a prophet. The Talmud's ethics, Sota 36b, align with Joseph's piety, Surah Yusuf 12:24, shaping Tafsir, Ibn Kathir. Repentance and unity. The brothers' Teshuvah, Yoma 86b, resonates with Tawbah, Surah Yusuf 12:87, influencing Islamic ethics, Surah Al-Hujurat 49:10. Mystical resonance. The Zohar's exile redemption cycle parallels Sufi views of spiritual journey, Rumi's Masnavi, with Joseph's Yesod echoing prophetic purity. Influence. Rabbinic themes shape Islamic storytelling, with Surah Yusuf, Quran 12:3, drawing parallels to Bereshit Rabbah, informing 8 sermons. Interfaith impact. Rabbinic and mystical insights foster dialogue, with Genesis 45:4-15 and Surah Yusuf cited in initiatives like the Abrahamic Family House, 2023. They unify Abrahamic exegesis, shaping interfaith curricula, Harvard Divinity, 2025. 7 Contemporary applications. Rabbinic and mystical interpretations address modern challenges, spiritual disconnection, social division, and ethical crises, through their timeless wisdom. Spiritual engagement. Midrash's providence, Genesis 50:20, inspires Jewish renewal retreats, with Rashi's insights on Genesis 45:4-15 guiding tefillah. The Zohar's Yesod informs Chassidic meditation, addressing spiritual seeking, Pew, 2023. Digital platforms like Spheria integrate Rashi and Bereshit Rabbah, making Genesis 37:50 accessible, countering digital distraction. BBNA, 2025. Reconciliation and Ethics. The Talmud's Teshuvah, Yoma 86b, informs peace building, with Genesis 45:415 cited by Seeds of Peace and UN Interfaith Harmony Week, 2025. Midrash's Chaste Shapes Tzedakah, addressing polarization, Gallup, 2023. Ramban's Ethics, Genesis 44:1834, Guide Restorative Justice, UN 2024, with NGOs like HIES using Genesis 45 for refugee advocacy. Communal identity. Bereshit Rabbah's tribal focus, Genesis 49, inspires Jewish unity, with Shabbat and Zionist movements citing Genesis 49:812 for community, Israel Unity Government, 2025. The Zohar's redemption informs Tisha B'Av, guiding diaspora identity. Musar programs. Musar Institute, use SOTA 36b's integrity for ethical leadership, addressing workplace diversity, Forbes, 2025. Cultural innovation. Rabbinic insights influence literature. Elie Wiesel's Joseph, film, Joseph, King of Dreams, and theater, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, with Genesis 45 adapted in Netflix series, 2025. The Zohar's symbolism shapes art, Adnes Joseph, while Midrash informs biblical tourism, Hebron, avarice, bridging ancient and modern. Educational impact. Rashi and Ramban are taught in yeshivas and universities, Yale Divinity, 2025, with Bereshit Rabbah engaging audiences via podcasts, Bible Project. The Zohar's mysticism inspires interfaith seminars, UN 2025. Cultural impact. These interpretations shape Jewish liturgy, Salishot, education, Shevruta, and ethics, Tikkun Olam, influencing interfaith dialogue and global culture. They ensure Genesis 37:50's relevance, addressing universal themes of redemption and unity. 8. Synthesis, interpretations as theological and spiritual pillars. Rabbinic and mystical interpretations, through Midrash, Talmud, Zohar, Rashi, and Ramban, transform the Joseph narrative into a theological and spiritual cornerstone, unifying Genesis and bridging to the Torah's redemptive arc. Midrash, Bereshit Rabbah, emphasizes providence, Genesis 50 hours 20 minutes, Teshuvah, Genesis 45:415, and tribal identity, Genesis 49, offering exilic hope and ethical models. The Talmud, Sota 36b, Yoma 86b, derives halakhic and Musar principles, shaping Torah spirituality, Leviticus 19:18. The Zohar maps the narrative onto Sfirot, with Joseph, Yesod, and Judah, Makhut, restoring cosmic unity, prefiguring Sinai, Exodus 19:6. Rashi's clarity and Ramban's depth make these insights accessible, linking Genesis to redemption, Exodus 3:8. These traditions influence Jewish liturgy, Parshio, Pesach, education, Shevruta, and identity, resonating with Christian and Islamic exegesis. Contemporary applications address spiritual seeking, reconciliation, and unity, ensuring the narrative's vitality. As Genesis conclusion, these interpretations bridge ancient promises to Torah redemption, inviting all to engage their vision of faith, healing, and hope. Theological unity. The interpretations unify providence, teshuvah, and continuity, resolving Genesis promises, Genesis 12:1-3, and preparing for Torah climaxes, liberation, Exodus 14, covenant, Exodus 19:24, and conquest, Joshua 1. They frame the narrative as a spiritual journey, aligning with Torah's mission, Deuteronomy 7:6-8. Spiritual depth. Midrash and Talmud humanize the covenant, with Joseph and Judah modeling ethics, while the Zohar elevates the narrative to cosmic redemption. Rashi and Ramban bridge Peshat and mysticism, making Genesis 37:50 a guide for faith and practice. Cultural and interfaith resonance. The interpretations shape Jewish identity, tefillah, Christian theology, sermons, and Islamic exegesis, tafsir, fostering dialogue, Abrahamic Family House, 2023. Globally, they influence literature, art, and ethics, addressing universal redemption. Contemporary relevance. The insights guide modern spirituality, reconciliation, and identity, fulfilling the Torah's call to be a light to the nations, Isaiah 42:6. 9. Conclusion, a tapestry of wisdom and redemption. Rabbinic and mystical interpretations of Genesis 37:50 weave a tapestry of theological, ethical, and spiritual wisdom, transforming the Joseph narrative into a cornerstone of Jewish thought and a bridge to the Torah's redemptive vision. Midrash and Talmud highlight providence, teshuvah, and unity, offering exilic hope and Torah ethics. The Zohar's Sfirot and Tikkun frame the narrative as cosmic redemption, guiding spiritual growth. Rashi's clarity and Ramban's depth ensure accessibility, linking Genesis to Exodus. Shaping Jewish liturgy, education, and identity, these traditions resonate with Christian and Islamic theology, fostering dialogue. Contemporary applications address modern challenges, ensuring Genesis 37:50's relevance. From ancient exile to the 21st century, these interpretations invite all to engage the narrative's vision of faith, redemption, and communal hope, unifying Genesis and the Torah in a timeless call to covenantal life. Thank you for watching Big Breaking News of America. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for more news updates. Share our channel with your friends and family members, leave a like for more videos and express your thoughts under comment section.